What's up, guys? On this episode, we're going to be covering everything from remote collar conditioning stuff, counter conditioning, addressing dogs that aren't good with children, and dogs that have a really, really tough time with impulse control around distractions. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Blake Rodriguez, and this is episode 24 of Dog Behavior Question Tuesday. A very special episode, as you can see. We're hanging by the very, very real, it's extremely fake, Christmas tree. We also have these hooligans hanging out with us. It's kind of a nasty, rainy day. I'm running around doing errands and getting ready to actually head to the in-laws, so I have to pack. I actually just finished moving, so I have yet to unpack. So I need to take everything out of my drawers that was just thrown in, fold literally all of my clothes, fold everything, put it away, and then pack my bag. So we're gonna answer these questions, and I'm gonna head on out of here. We are going to start with DctK9's. Hi Blake, I saw your Periscope with the brown pit bull and you made him hold place while you played with Soko. My dog has a really hard time holding place, and when our other dog plays. So I put him on leash and gave him food when he's focused on me instead of our other dog playing. Did I do the right thing even though my dog was tense and whined from frustration? A couple of times, thanks. Okay. So a few things. I think overall in early stages, if your dog is making a choice to start to look at you a little bit more, if it wasn't prior, like start to look at you for guidance over focusing on the dog, I think it's kind of okay to maybe encourage that, to let the dog know that they're on the right track. But I wouldn't get in the habit of encouraging that because the state of mind that your dog was in was kind of off the charts. Right? And if the dog is getting fed for that, it's not really helping. So let me try and think what I would do in this situation. First thing I would look to really do is I would backtrack. If your dog is struggling while your other dog plays, why don't you start by changing that high energy to something that's lower? Having your dog hold place while you're getting up and doing things, right? Having your dog place while you call your other dog off calmly, and you calmly pet. And when you see concern, address that. Don't put your dog like in the ring with like Mike Tyson and he's just learning how to box, right? Like start it really slow, distraction wise. You don't want to really up that level until your dog can get there. So find your steps of progression, and I think that's really going to help you. Quick question, Casey, she said she emailed me. You didn't answer that, or you didn't throw that in the No, right? All right. So Casey, you snooze, you lose. I have to answer your email, and I am going to do that. But you didn't ask your question here, so unfortunately, the way we're doing it, we're just reading through here. When I disconnect my phone, I don't have internet. I just read what I have here, right? So next time. Kelly, how would you handle a dog who is iffy about children? He's never bitten a child, but has jumped up at the child's face while wearing a muzzle. That should count as a bite. And barks like he's confused about children. He also grew up with the child too and is fine with her, but other children he's weird about. It's kind of the same thing. Is that Cole?
Yeah.
Is she down there?
Yeah.
Could you either, is he on a remote or no?
No.
Yeah, you could tell her to just put on a remote unless she's gonna get him out, or she has to maybe use the convincer. Toss one down there for her just to kind of chill him out. He's a little anxious. It's just stuff that you guys aren't hearing. I just hear downstairs. I want calm dogs, and if I hear a little dog stressing, there's a part of me that wants to kind of help that dog out, right? But okay, so a couple things that we're gonna look at. You need to really think about how to help your dog understand that children are okay. So one, you either have a dog that is jumping up excitedly at people or at children, or is jumping up, what's the word I'm looking for? Like aggressively toward, like if that muzzle wasn't there, it would have been a bite. I don't know what the difference is, but in any case, if your dog is over the top excited, he or she needs to learn how to hold a position while things are going on around them. And the dog has to hold place. That means kids aren't going up to them saying hi. That means kids aren't going up to them like, petting or trying to offer food or any of that. Nothing. If you need to remove your dog to a further location, so the proximity, it makes it easier for your dog to be successful, that's fine. Do that in the beginning and slowly build up. And then when your dog is finally ready, if there's no bags there, there should be a bunch in the closet. And then when your dog is ready to actually meet, if you're already used to working your dog for food, or your dog is already used to being worked for food and knows how to accept and is accepting from you fairly easily, then you can switch to children that you know that you can coach through the process. You should also have a really solid recall in place so that when the dog finally comes up, after the dog is not concerned, and once the dog already knows that children aren't going to overwhelm, then what you're doing is you're getting to a point where the dog is already calm mentally, is not like eager to attack or eager to say hi and jump up. The dog comes over on leash, maybe takes food while the kid is over here, takes the food, and then the owner recalls away, good job, gives maybe some more food and puts back in place. So the experience is always positive, and a dog knows that there's another way to act around children, right? So that's like one way, assuming that we're going into that. But overall, your dog has to learn how to hold place. Don't throw your dog in the middle of a playground and have kids running on all around them. It just doesn't make much sense, right? Not saying you're doing that, it's just so you know. Let's see what else we have here. Can I have my hat? Sure. Thanks. So as for the barking and stuff, the barking is the bigger problem. And this is another thing that you have to look at physically. I might have to back you up here, Andrew, to show this for a second. But if Andrew is this chair and I'm the dog, and let's say I'm on place and I'm barking toward these other children, which are facing this way, if he's gonna work on recalling me away, he's calling me toward him, he should not be calling me toward him, and once I get here, allowing me to go against pressure, face my hips and my waist and everything, my butt facing that way, facing the children. This is a big problem, and there aren't enough trainers that are talking about this. When the distraction is right here, in the early stages, a dog needs to learn how to actually turn away. That's the same thing for dog aggression. That's the same thing for nervousness. They have to know that they can actually forget about that. So if Andrew's gonna call me, he's gonna call me and not allow me to turn, whatever that means. That means his body backs up further, he pulls the leash up and in, he's using the extra hand to stop me every time I want to turn around. Whatever that is, you're not letting that happen, right? Another thing you have to do, if that's getting that extreme, then back up and use more space so it's easier for you. You have to look at all of these things. This entire process is extremely, extremely important. This is from Hoops. Hey Blake, thank you so much for the awesome information you guys publish. My question was skipped last week. I knew I skipped something. I apologize for that.
I thought we answered it, but...
Did we answer it?
I'm pretty sure we did, but I'm not 100%.
I don't know. We'll have to see. Andrew's literally going to the computer right now to find out. Well, I'm going to answer it, and my answer is going to be completely different. He's going to be like, but you told me not to do that in the last one. My 9-month-old lab recently got back from a board and training with a trainer that trains hunting dogs. He introduced the remote collar to her and uses higher levels than I see you guys use. He let me know when continuing to work proof recall to only use the stimulation at higher correction levels if she doesn't come when called, and that she would learn to try to beat the stimulation by coming right away before the... Hold on one second, I gotta... He let me know that when continuing to work proof recall to only use the stimulation at higher levels if she doesn't come. Oh, okay, I see now. By coming right away before the stimulation. It's been about a month since she came home and I'm not seeing any signs of her trying to beat the stim. So this is the problem. The stim is becoming kind of like almost like a punishment thing. And it's probably way too early for that. Like if I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that with my dog, who my dog already knows. And then I say something and he's like, yeah, not right now. And I'm like, hey, he's like, oh, sorry. You know what I mean? Even then, it's not gonna be levels that are like trying to hurt him or anything like that. It's any distraction, she won't come the first time or the second or the third, even though I know she hears me. So what I'm gonna tell you to do is you need to go back to using constant, not just when you need it. Constant pressure, even if that means helping with the leash to show how to shut it off, you're doing it even for the things that the dog would already do without the stim. Meaning I say sit, my dog would have sat, the button comes on, sit, right? Down. This, and you're just used to doing that, or at the same time as the command, and you use it and you use it and you use it and you use it because that's a language. The only way I become fluent in a language is if I speak it and I speak it and I speak it and I speak it, right? If I'm not speaking that language at all, and then all of a sudden I go to Italy and now I want to speak Italian, it's not going to be the same as if I was already practicing it all the time, right? So the more you practice it, the easier it is. Then down the road, once it's habitual and it's ingrained, like for example, I always set my alarm clock at a specific time. Always, 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 right? On my day off, because I'm so used to always setting it, that one day off that I have, I still wake up at that time. I would imagine that over time, I would still wake up relatively early if I didn't set my alarm, but if every single day I didn't set my alarm, that time would deviate. 5:30 would end up being 6 o'clock. Then it would be 7. And if I stayed up late enough, it would end up being 8 or 9. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same concept. Try to use it more from a communication-based point of view and have your dog understand the communication. Know that it's clear. Then you can start to, hey, cut it out and be a little bit louder with that remote, okay? That's a great question, though. So there's nothing necessarily that trainer did wrong. It's just you might not be in the position that the trainer was in, and the dog might be out of practice, especially if you don't speak as clearly as that trainer. And then there's also the possibility that the trainer just didn't get your dog to that point, which wouldn't be your fault either. Either way, it's not really your fault. You're just doing as you were told. Just read your dog and try and practice. It seems like your dog needs a little bit more help. All right. On E-Read, hey, I asked a pretty long question on your last post for episode 23. I don't see what that question is.
It was like posted right after we filmed it on the last
I don't know if I can go back here. Let's find out. On the episode 22 one?
Yeah.
It's from E-Read?
Yep. The last question.
Hey Blake, because you asked that. Okay, I see why. All right. Hey Blake, love the show and your work. My question is about my 2 female pit bulls. I've had them since they were young. They are 2 and 3 right now, and they have gotten along most of their life. They used to play great with each other and used to behave on walks, rollerblades, and I've had lots of success. Unfortunately, they've been getting into fights. It can be over a toy, bone, or if they go for the same piece of food, it's a fight. I keep them separated now because of too many occurrences. I can't trust it's safe because myself and my mother have been quite injured in the process of breaking it up. I've done a lot of training with them myself, treadmill, place commands, obedience, walks, socialization classes. For the most part, we can live in harmony, but there are those moments that I just don't want to risk. I don't believe because they're pit bulls is why they fight, but because of the power of the breed, the fights are no joke and blood is drawn every time. The vet told me that after the 3 incidents, they have seen they come in for stitches. They say I have to rehome 1. She also said this happens often when you have 2 females that's in the mix, and eventually it will happen again. Now that they are separated, walking training has become difficult as a doggy shuffle. Yeah, I know that's a lot of work. My hope is that we can all be together again like it was once, but I'm coming to my wit's end. I can't bear the thought of having to rehome 1. Your help, please. Okay. Whew. All right, where do we start with this one? The dogs, this happens a lot actually with dogs that live with each other. You're so used to them being okay that they get more liberty and they get more freedom because they play well. They're able to kind of do their own thing, settle things on their own, and eventually we're not there to kind of intervene and advocate the way that we should have. So it gets stronger and stronger, and dogs get more comfortable making certain choices to say what goes and what doesn't. So at some point that build or was building throughout the period where they were okay. And now you have dogs that are comfortable making this choice. I'm gonna go into something that it's hard to kind of to tackle that, but we did the same thing with Stanley in a way. It's like a dog has to be afraid to make certain choices. So there's so many ways to kind of do that. You really need to consult a professional because now you're talking about like a serious like life or death situation. We do it here all the time. But what we're looking at is a dog that's gotten comfortable making that choice to attack and fight, and it might be two of them. What I would suggest, what's up, Cole? What I would suggest is when you're working them for food, first off, they should be able to hold place. I would imagine that they can hold place and be fine. It looks like you have all that down, but you have dogs when they're on their own that are getting into trouble. This is where fear needs to actually come into play, right? And I'm sure that someone that watches this, somewhere along the line is gonna probably take this out of context and say that I say you should have your dogs afraid of you. But what I'm getting at here is fear to make certain choices, no different than I fear speeding because I don't want to get a speeding ticket. I fear not making money because that means that I might not be able to pay rent. I fear people that are religious fear in God, right? What are you going to say? You fear what?
Getting hit by a car, so I look both ways.
You fear getting hit by a car, so you look both ways. You actually don't cross the street unless you have the right of way, right? Fear can be a very positive motivator if done right. That does not mean train your dogs with fear, but certain choices that could be life or death, you better believe that I want a dog that can be that dangerous, or two dogs fearing the crap out of making that choice. And I'm serious about this. I don't mean fear anywhere else, but you better think twice the second you think about competing for that. I'd rather you walk away, right? And part of that is an instinctual survival tactic to kind of be possessive and fight for that peace. But in the world that we live in, they don't need that, right? So there's a couple ways to kind of do this. You should definitely, if you have one dog that's acting like the jerk and the other one is fine, then you can do this individually, but you should have two people. One dog should either be back tied or you should have that second person. Dog should be on leash. Dog should be remote collar trained prior. All of these steps, dog should have solid recall. Dog should respond to the leash really, really well. If you don't have those things, that's what you need to work on first. Next step, feed the chickens. I would assume they live together so they eat the same food. What you should be doing is you should be scattering. You know how they feed chickens? They take the feeder and they just throw it on the floor. They just throw it at farms. You need to spread kibble around. Dogs need to be on leash, coming and eating the food. The concept in a nutshell is that dogs are, remember, consult a professional for this because this is still dangerous, even though this is a safer way to do it. Is assuming that you're at this point where you need to test it eventually. You need the dogs to come far. The theory behind this is when kibble is so scattered, it's very, very difficult to guard a piece of food because it's not in one confined area like a food bowl or something is. And they start eating. When they start to get closer to each other, instead of racing for that piece, even if you see racing or you see a dog that does this or you see like their speeding is too much, you can correct that. You can correct that high with a remote, or you can try prior calling the dog off. And eventually levels have to go higher, leash pressure has to go higher, and if the timing is good, this is where it becomes dangerous. You can maybe do it with a muzzle if the dog can eat through the muzzle. A dog needs to know right as they're thinking about racing, that's what you're correcting for. You must have good timing for this. And I want a dog to be scared to battle over the last piece. Absolutely. If it's going to save the dog's life, then I want the dog to be scared to battle for the last piece. I highly, highly doubt that they're going to be in a situation where all of a sudden they die because there was a last piece of food and they were so polite that they gave the other dog. Your dog's not going to be in that situation. You don't have to worry about that, right? So You really drill that, and even if that means the first time you do it, the dog gets so scared that they don't eat the rest of their meal, that's fine, because the dog is only gonna eat this way until they start eating again. And then what you'll start to see is once a dog is afraid to make that choice, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna see a dog that will start to eat more politely, nervous, and if the other dog comes around, they'll choose to walk away. I don't really want to get involved in that. And when that dog does that, you praise the bejesus out of them, you back up, you give them something of higher value, you reward, so that they know that's exactly what they should have done. And what happens is you start to get a more polite dog, a dog that backs away, a dog that doesn't compete, a dog that's more polite. And that's, we can go into the little details and I could show you little details. We've done this before. If you look back on our Facebook page, our Instagram, our YouTube, maybe not our YouTube, but you'll see that we've done this with a number of dogs. And if there's so many little minute, little nuanced, fine details that I can really get into, it's hard to do that here. But in a nutshell, that's what you do, right? So that's that. You need to have the dogs fearing making that choice. Trainers will disagree. Trainers will call me horrible for this. I don't care because those same trainers aren't helping these dogs, right? And that's it. I'll call them out. It's not happening, right? So what we're doing now is going back to the other page. You guys got me all messed up here. So it was hoops, e-read, and then it's promotion. Okay, promotion 1983. Blake, loving the scopes. Thank you for watching us on Periscope. I really appreciate that, especially the one on counter conditioning. Any advice for dogs who are fearful of strangers? My dog can't handle strangers coming inside my home. He'll be on place or crate and continually fear bark nonstop. I try to correct the behavior with the leash pop, but I've been failing so far. Is there a way to counter condition his fear? Yes, there is. At the same time, you need to be mindful of the strangers that are coming in, and you need to be able to coach them. It needs to be people that you kind of know, and you work through a process. You need to have dogs that can be comfortable with people going in and out here before you have them meeting. Once you have them meeting, it's very similar to what I was talking about before with the food. You also have recall, really, really solid, right, with the recall. So you need to have this. That just happened, and these dogs are doing this, right? Well, he just shook it off. But, like, they're chilling out, right? They're not, door comes and like this and like, you know, woo, 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 and going crazy and stuff like that. Going into the counter conditioning process, do you want to elaborate a little more? We'll get you on camera here. Just come on. I'm not gonna repeat. I bought all these mics.
Yeah, why?
For what?
Yes, I could.
Hold on 1 sec. I get to play cameraman.
Sure, so just remind me, what was the question again? Counter conditioning for...
Counter conditioning for people coming into the home. Can you counter condition that? How do you do that? Because the dog fear barks, similar to
Absolutely,
a lot of dogs that we have here. The dog fear barks, and she's tried, or he or she, I forget, has tried like correcting, but the leash pops don't seem to be helping. What would you suggest?
First thing I would say is you shouldn't do this when you actually have friends over and it's like a burden. It's like, oh, I got to deal with my dog. You should make the time to practice this so you can do it the right way, and then you have the time to get the results you want. When you correct, first off, what I would do, step one, is when you correct, I would turn the dog away and ask for the stopping. I would get the physical movement of turning away and not looking at the dog for step one. Is like you just be comfortable, stop barking when the person's here. Once that's good, and the dog's nice and calm, you have your person in, you can invite your dog over, and the guest should ignore their dog. Should not acknowledge it at any point. Let your dog do what he wants. Most of the time, they're going to be curious. They're going to come in very slowly. If you waited enough and the dog calmed down before you called it off place, they'll use their nose, they'll get close. And if you have a dog familiar with markers, they'll get a sniff in. You can mark it with a good or a yes and feed, and the dog will be like, wow, that interaction is what got me food. And if you have a really food motivated dog that knows its markers, they're going to be willing to do it again. You mark it again, and you'll get a dog who's more willing to go up and investigate strangers as long as the stranger ignores them. And once they're comfortable with that, you can maybe push it a little bit more and have the person come out and have like a soft interaction with them, and mark and reward for that. Good job, and you just keep on pushing slowly but truly. The thing about counter conditioning is you want to sort of trick the dog into doing the thing that he does not like to do. It's almost like you're tricking him. He's like, oh yeah, I'm getting fed, no problem. I love being fed. We're doing the stuff I normally do. Then slowly but truly, you start asking him to do the stuff that he's scared to do. And he doesn't really know it because you're taking such small baby steps that it's not apparent to him. And he's still in that frame of mind that he's getting fed and it's all a good time. And you sort of sneak up on him with the stuff that he doesn't like. And he's like, oh, it's not that bad. I'm still in a good mood. So, everything's all good. It's almost like that suave guy at the bar. Let's say you're a female, you're like, I'm not sleeping with any guy tonight, nobody's taking me home, I gotta go to work tomorrow in the morning. You meet this one guy, and he's just super nice. Next thing you know, you're in his house, and you're like, oh man, how did I get here? This guy was just so suave, he just like snuck you right into his apartment. So it's sort of sneaky in that way. He keeps you in such a good frame of mind that he tricked you into doing something you didn't want to do. That's pretty much it. You have to take it real slow. You shouldn't put pressure on the dog too fast. You want to keep that happy-go-lucky frame of mind that comes with the food and the working for their food. And that's all I really have to say.
Awesome. That is...
Is that it?
That is it for episode 24, right?
Yep.
24 of... Woo! He almost wiped out of dog behavior question Tuesday. Let me double check that to make sure. It is. We will see you guys next week.